Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Fleur. I'm a Google Cloud Architect with Clear Services LLC. Today, we'll do a high level overview of migration from on prem to Google Cloud VMware Engine. Let's start by viewing a summary of all that will be discussed today in this presentation. So, first, on the GCVE side, uh, the high level overview of the migration is quite long. So I thought dividing it into the main things that you need to remember and the main things that I want you to learn from that presentation. So number one is uh, what we call a Google Cloud environment. So you start with a project or a VPC. Second is how can you interconnect your on-prem environment to that Google Cloud environment. Third, we'll spin up the GCVE environment. Four, we'll establish a connection between the Google Cloud environment and the GCVE environment. Five, we'll talk about internet access consideration. Six, we'll establish connection between your on-prem vCenter and the GCVE vCenter. Seven, we'll do an actual transfer of resource and talk about how to make that happen. Eight, we'll talk about network consideration when doing that migration. And finally, we'll talk about how you can access Google services from your VMware Engine environment. After that presentation, we'll talk about how do we start a VMware migration project, what is involved. So four things is an assessment first, and then a proposal. After the proposal and discussion on the proposal, we'll have a final plan, and finally we'll implement that plan. So let's start with the high level Google Cloud VMware Engine migration. So first, we will suppose that we will simplify your environment. Uh, we suppose you have two networks and you have one VM in each network. So you have network A and network B, and you have VM A and VMB. You also have your vCenter, which is your management for all your hosts in your VMware environment, and this is also where you manage all your VMs. Then we go into one and two. We'll create a project that will comprise of a shared or standalone VPC. VPC stands for virtual private cloud. And the second part is the interconnection between your Google Cloud environment and your on-premise environment. For that, you have three options. The most common options used is the cloud VPN. So you establish a site-to-site VPN between your VPC and your on-premise environment. The second option is to use Cloud Interconnect. And in Cloud Interconnect, you have two options. You have Partner Interconnect, where you use a Google partner to establish that connection between your on-prem environment and your VPC. That connection is a lot faster than the cloud VPN, so it depends on what is your bandwidth requirement. And the third option is a dedicated interconnect where you establish a direct connection between your on-prem environment and your VPC. This option has the most bandwidth, so you have choice depending on how much bandwidth that you need. One additional thing that we will do is using a product from Google Cloud called Cloud TNS, because you want the resource that you have on premise to be able to find resource that is in Google Cloud. And we all know that DNS is used for identifying resource in your environment. And by establishing a connection between your on-prem DNS and cloud DNS, we will make it possible for resource on Google Cloud to be discovered by resource on prem. Now we'll spin up the GCVE environment. So it's a managed service offered by Google that will spin up a host for you. I think there's a minimum of 3 hosts to use GCVE environment, but that's not the purpose of this presentation. So we'll keep it at you spin up a full VMware environment with vCenter, NSX, and HCX. HCX is for the migration. It's the feature for the migration, and the license for HCX is included in your GCVE license. So no worry about additional costs in using HCX. The fourth thing is you will establish connection between your GCVE environment and your Google Cloud environment, so your project and or VPC. For that, you use a feature of Google Cloud called VPC peering, and that's what established the communication between the Google Cloud environment and the GCP environment. And since you already have established communication between your on-prem and one of your VPC environment, so by establishing that connection, communication can flow from on-prem to GCVE and from GCVE to on-prem. Now we'll start talking about internet access. So you have the choice here. You can use a public IP address from your GCV environment and access directly the internet. You also can use an internet gateway and provide internet through your VPC project so that you can control how your resources are accessing the internet. So you can establish policy and firewall to control that communication and protect your environment. And since you already have all that set up on prem, if you want, you can use the same internet gateway so that your resource from GCV access the internet through your on-prem environment. Of course, there are many latency consideration from how you configure this, and uh, you need to balance security and latency considerations to take a decision. Now, the next step is to establish connection between your on-prem vCenter and your GCVE vCenter. And for that, you use the HCX connector. What is it? Um, is it's an OVA file that you deploy on your VMware environment that is on-prem. So that install of VM and that VM is what will establish connection between uh, the two vCenters that you're using. Of course, you make all the configuration to make sure that communication can go from on-prem to GCVE and from GCVE to on-prem. Now, you will stretch your network because one of your objective is to keep your VM with the same IP address so that communication happened the same way it was happening on-prem. So the seventh, we reached the seventh part of that summary that I gave you in the beginning, which is the transfer. What I call transfer is the transfer of your resources that are on-prem to the GCVE environment. um, you have two options there. You can copy the files for the VMs and move those files to your GCVE environment. In that case, you will have downtime when you are shutting down your VMs on prem and turning them on the GCVE environment. So short um, interruption of service, short downtime uh, when switching from on prem to GCVE in that case. The other option is to use vMotion, and you're all familiar with vMotion. So you will be able to move your VMs from on-prem to GCVE using that feature of VMware that is called vMotion. It is the preferred method because with vMotion you have no downtime. So let's move those VM from on-prem to GCVE. Now, you will need to unstretch those network. You can take your time, of course, before you do that, but when you decide to unstretch the network, what will happen is you need to find ways to advertise those network back to your on-prem environment so that uh, your resource that are on-prem knows how to reach the resources that are in GCVE. How you advertise this information is based on the protocol that you have already in your network. Uh, Google is very flexible in that sense, and you have the choice to continue using what you are already using. Now that you have moved from on-prem to GCVE, you will have access to many Google services, and this access is done via peering. The same feature that we use to connect your VPC to your GCVE is the same one that we will use to connect your VMs to Google's services that you would like to use once you have fully migrated to GCVE. Now, let's talk a little bit about the process, how we can help you move from on-prem to GCVE. It's a pretty straightforward process. So we usually start with an assessment. So we want to understand the environment that you have on-prem. And when we say we want to understand the environment, it's not only on the technical aspect of it, but on the management aspect of it. So we will first look at your VMware environment and take into account all the VMs and all the configuration that you have in that VMware environment. Then we will consider your network. As you see in the presentation, there are some network considerations to make that migration as seamless as possible. So then we need in our assessment to understand the policies in your network and including the security policies in that case. Third, we will review the government framework that you're using. We don't want to fall outside of that framework. We want that you control that migration like you control any change or any modification that you're doing in your operation on prem. So this is the same things that we will apply when moving to Google Cloud. After that assessment, we will come back to you with a proposal, and the proposal will have a technical side and a financial side. Here, I'm only going to discuss the technical phase of it. The technical side of it, we will tell you, hey, based on what you have today and your government framework, this is how we intend to move you from VMware on-prem to VMware in the cloud as GCVE. And we will list different options. Then we will discuss those options to take a final decision. And once we have that final decision on how you feel comfortable to move, reducing the risk to your organization, the risk to any applications going down and impacting your business, we will have a final project plan for the technical side. And that after that final project plan is accepted on your side, we will begin the implementation. For simple networks, I mean, for simple VMware environment, the implementation can take between 1 to 5 days. On our side, it's pretty straightforward. Once we have approval based on the governance framework, we deploy the environment and we move your resources. We test and make sure that communication is happening between your critical VMs and applications, that they are still accessible and functioning as intended. We have the option to fall back to the previous environment because uh, we will be using vMotion, so we can move back as fast as possible. But we also use backups and plan to make sure that your operation, I mean, this migration will have minimal impact on your operation. So if you want to go through this process with us, please reach out. And thank you for listening. See you on our next presentation about the VMware engine. Bye.